This is The Spark. A lot of these videos I wanted to be about specific concepts or specific thoughts relating to a broader concept in regards to spirituality or reality transurfing. But in that spirit, I'm trying to create a certain energy here, and I understand that energy can be created with those types of content or by me just simply posting content. So this video is going to be a little bit about me. There won't be too many videos like this, so but this channel, if this is the first video that you watch, this channel is dedicated to exploring concepts that explain reality and how to create our own reality. It's not just about simple law of attraction or anything like that, but how do we actually traverse these realities to get to an ideal version? How do we recognize when something that we were trying to realize here has been realized? I want to explore it all because I'm on about my 4th or 5th reading of Reality Transurfing by Vadim Zeland, and every time that I read it, it's like a 30 hours or so book, but I take it slow. I go chapter by chapter, and I'll listen to each section differently because there's different postings around it. So I have the audio book, and then on YouTube there's different recordings that are available, and I have to, I think I'm gonna get a hard copy as well, but I have to hear it multiple ways and just sit and just meditate on it and let these concepts really soak in, and at the same time not just sit back and let them soak in, but also do my best to apply them in real time to situations that I'm experiencing in life. So things like looking for signs, and not necessarily looking for signs so much to the point where you're like stir crazy and everything you have to like look up, oh my gosh, is this a sign for that? But no, when something is like obvious to you, or something like seems to like send a deep spiritual message just to you, then yeah, more than likely that's a message for you. So after my breakup a couple years back, 2020 was a rough year for me, and I move into my unit and start exploring my area and see, oh, I'm at a crossroads, and not too far from me, turns out there's a crossroads, and it's just there's a lot of little signs that the universe like gave me to show that, like, okay, this is a crossroads. This is that point where your future is in your hands, essentially. Like a really good teacher, mentor that I had was Soul Immortal, and what he called it was the gallery. When you're in between realities and consciously creating yours, and piece by piece things are starting to fall into place. It's like you're surfing through a gallery, and that's really what it's felt like to me when I think about the crossroads and being beyond that point where you see the bridge in front of you, and you realize that you things can't stay the same as they were. So after you realize that there's more to this life, your life can't stay the way that it was, and you start to cross the bridge and you go beyond the point where you can turn back, your past has fallen apart, your previous reality has fallen apart, and to try to go back would be, I mean, the equivalent of death for you, because there's nothing that exists there. um, you start to see potential realities, and your vision expands. So a simple gesture or a simple conversation is no longer just a conversation and just a gesture. Meetings with people, just little statements can key you into their frequency, where it is that they're attuned to, what it is that they believe, and whether or not they are an asset to you along your journey. Or you can see things if, let's say, you go out on a date or something like that. You can see the ending of it, and you can see whether or not that end or that whatever, whether it's heartbreak or whatever that you see, even if it's joy that you see, you can see whether or not it's related to that future that you're trying to create. And if it isn't, it's almost like a tinge in your soul, like you just, all right, this isn't it, I have to keep going. So the gallery is very, very interesting because these doors that present themselves to you, they grow ever more enticing the deeper that you go and the further that you go away from that point of no return. So this message is really, really gonna help people who are feeling lost and feeling like you've dabbled into something that you don't know, and you think maybe you really shouldn't have. You're not crazy. And I'm going through the thick of it right now, and I can tell you it gets better. It gets better because your mindset gets better, and you start to see the pattern. You start to see how you start to see what level of emotion coupled with what thoughts creates what unfolding. You start to see how what type of action you actually have to take in order to shift yourself into position to just allow things to unfold. You also start to see how Vadim Zeland talks about this concept of inner intention versus outer intention, and he's really, really vague about outer intention. He doesn't really go into it too much, and I think that that's for a reason. But I can tell you this: you start to see how outer intention has an intelligence that can't be denied. And to elaborate on that, I'll describe inner intention. So your inner intention is that thing that you set out for with your actions. So you've decided a thing is as this. Okay, cool. That's what it is. And now you act on that. Not because you have desires of something that you don't have, but because you believe something that you do, and your intent is to bring that about, right? So that's your inner intention, and then your actions align with that. Inner intention has no excess potential. Excess potential is what keeps people from creating their desires, because their desires have an underlying assumption of lack, of them not having it. So desires create excess potential that keep you away from your goal. When you just set your intent and you act based on that intent, it's free of excess potential. It's like you're essentially tapping into God mode, and your intent is just that. You're just as the source is just a spontaneous creator. All source has to do is think, and that thing is. So you're tapping into your highest level of creation at whatever frequency that you're at. Now, obviously, what manifests or what is realized is going to be dependent on you and your beliefs and the level of emotion that you're able to attach to it, coupled with potentially other circumstances, whether or not you truly believe it, and all of this kind of stuff. But inner intention is really, really focused on you. Outer intention is something completely different. So I'll tell you a quick story that will help to give a picture of outer intention. When I realized that the vocabulary that I was learning through different, people who were in this sector and different just experiences, just picking up on casual conversation, the things that we say now and just words that we toss around, but they actually have like a really, really deep meaning. When I was becoming aware of different things that were just taking place around me that could potentially be signs that I was missing, um, I started doing things like going for long walks in nature, and just I'd have my headphones on, but I wouldn't be listening to anything, or I'd be listening to a frequency and just observing. And the times that I didn't have anything on, it's just my thoughts going to different places and me bringing them back to the moment, going to different places, bringing them back to the moment. I didn't even think of it as a meditation or anything like that. Then I just thought of it as something that I'm doing to try to feel good. But I can remember this. I started to do that just in other times where I'm not walking through nature, where I just stop for a moment, observe everything around me, just be present and see what was going on. So I can remember one morning I arrived at work. I did a morning meditation on the way to work, or a daily meditation on the way to work. And then when I get to the parking lot and I park, I open up my door and I just take a moment and pause and bring my awareness to that moment. And I'm looking around and I can see that there's tons of grasshoppers all over the ground, and they're going hard. Like they're loving life. They're hopping all over the place, like just doing their thing. And I'm looking like, man, it's kind of beautiful. I see them. I see them like hunting other smaller insects, and I'm like, yo, there's so many of them, but there's so many smaller insects. Like it's wild how many of them there are, and how they're pretty much like assaulting and destroying the insect population around here. It was an abnormal amount of grasshoppers in that area, and they were going to work on everything. So I stood and I observed, and I was like, wow, source provides. And that was that. A couple of days later, on my way to work, similar thing. I do a meditation on my way. I get in and I decide to take another moment, open up my door. It's parked in, I believe, a similar parking space, or one space over. And this time there weren't a ton of grasshoppers or anything like that. There really weren't. But there were a good amount of birds, and those birds were hunting them down. I see one bird with half a grasshopper hanging out of his mouth. Grasshoppers running away because the birds are coming to town, and I'm like, oh man, all those grasshoppers, these birds have been feasting because they are gone. Like they are gone. So I'm watching grasshoppers like stay still, acting like they're not there, so the bird doesn't see them. The bird's just like doing this thing, and grasshopper can't get away. It's like it's no contest, jacking that grasshopper up. And I took note how source provides. A couple days later, I'm at my complex in the back. I had the urge to take a walk, so I walk, and I believe at that time I was reading the Bhagavad Gita, so I took it to the back of the complex with me, where there's a smokers section and a wall and a bunch of trees and everything. And I decided to take a moment and just be aware, watch what's going on in that time, that space. And I could hear commotion coming from trees behind the wall on the opposite side of where I was. So I just started paying attention, and what I could see were a bunch of birds in a tree, in their nest within the tree, and they were making noises, whistling, and I could see on the ground on my side of the wall was a black cat with a white fur on its belly, and he's walking slowly, crouched down, just watching the birds. And they're not aware that the cat is there. They're just at play in the nest, just doing their thing, you know. And in almost a blinking you miss it moment, the cat scales the wall, hops over a branch, and is in the nest. And next thing you know, the cat's on the ground, bird in the mouth. And I see, like, there were other birds in the tree, and they're flying away, and they're crying and screaming for, you know, their child that the cat is now in the middle of devouring. And I'm just watching, because at this point I'm thinking to myself, these events are connected, like they have to be. And I took note. Source provides. And then the next day I'm still thinking about it, because it was so weird. These things happened within the course of like 2 weeks. It was wild. And I'm thinking to myself, what is it that I'm learning, or what is it that I'm supposed to like take from that? And at that time, there's so much that I was thinking, so many doors that were open, that I'm like, this is a crossroads, yes, but man, there's so many. It's not just the two paths that I can walk. There's so many paths. How do I know what path is for me? And I'm thinking about that cat. I'm thinking about the years of training that the cat had just to know to be silent, watch, wait, and how to, you know how quickly birds can fly away. Just a couple of seconds, scale a wall, leap over a branch, get to a nest, and be back on the ground, praying him out. Or the skill that it took for the birds to learn how to corner and destroy whole populations of grasshoppers, or the instinct of the grasshoppers to, not like in Bug's Life, but find their prey among lower insects. In every stage, every level of awareness around us at all times, Source has given us lessons. And if you are beyond that point of no return, walking, and you see doors in front of you, and some of them are enticing, but you can look down those doors and you can see that the future is destruction, the future is death, and it has you paralyzed, looking at all of the options around you, not knowing which path is for you. Be still. Take a moment. Become aware. just observe nature. Observe wherever it is that you are. And ask yourself, what is Source teaching me? Where is Source guiding me? And watch what you see. Just as Source places the instinct in the grasshopper, places the ability in the bird, and places the skill in the cat. All our lives, we've been nurtured and grown just the same to do a particular job, a particular task, a particular thing. And that thing will fulfill you more than anything else that this world can offer. And it'll be so natural for you. It'll be like just waking up and every day being bliss. The abundance is all around, not just for us, but for everything. Everything that wants to be aware of the abundance around. It may seem like the gallery is endless and you'll be at a crossroads forever, but I can promise you, if you pay attention to the signs, Source will guide you out. This is the Spark.